Hi, I'm Mr. Red Readings, and I just read 4 stories with my mic on mute. Anyways, welcome back to another Reddit reading video. Those stories that I read earlier, good thing that my mic was on mute kinda, because they weren't that good. I picked some different ones. I still didn't read these ones. I never ever read these. I always go with the cold read during the video. We're gonna be doing the ultimate revenge challenge inspired by Fresh, just like last video. But this time we're gonna be adding another sub into the mix. Glenn was like, why don't you include regular revenge, you idiot? No, I'm just kidding. They didn't say all that. But that's a great idea. We're gonna read a regular revenge, a petty revenge, a pro revenge, a nuclear revenge, and the almighty r/SuperNovaRevenge. Let's just go ahead and jump into this one. In r/regular revenge, we got Disneyland scam. My girlfriend was going to a dapper day at Disney with some friends. I didn't want to go, mostly because I couldn't until 6 p.m. However, she kept bringing it up, so I decided I was going to surprise her and just show up later that evening. I didn't want to pay full price for the ticket that I'd only be using for a couple of hours. So I headed to Craigslist, never had a bad experience there, said no one ever. I find a legitimate seller willing to meet up at the park. In fact, he's an employee, and I'm getting a pretty good deal. Nothing about this whole transaction seems suspicious, except that at the last minute, he couldn't meet at the park, so I met at his house. Get to the park, scan the ticket to get in, and a giant red light goes off on the machine. Disney employee's like, this ticket has been used already. I'm pissed. So I called the guy, which he told me to do if I had any trouble. No response. In the end, I buy a ticket and get in. It was there at the happiest place on earth that I hatched my revenge. I just had to put on Craigslist, I added my own. I gave the name of the guy who sold me the ticket, along with his phone number and address. The ad was along the lines of mail for mail, looking for fun. I said that I worked at Disney, gave my favorite characters and movie too. I also said what I'm into, like really into, to send me pics of what you're packing. I refresh the ad every month for 3 months. OMG, I looked under one of these revenge stories and someone was trying to figure out how to get like collect calls to spam people's phone numbers, and some guy was like, no, don't do that, just post the ad on Craigslist and keep refreshing it. People are bound to call them so many times they have to change their phone number. This guy actually went through with that. That's a nice little regular revenge. And apparently what that guy did was very common. My Disney experience said, used to work with the fraud department. These tickets have been sold upwards of 150 times. I could pretty much guarantee you the guy doesn't work for the park. Wow, what does he do? Like dig him out the trash can or something? How does he get these? Okay, anyway, on to the r/petty revenge. I don't know if I mentioned this, but some of these stories are going to be pretty short just because we have to read 5 stories. So they can't be, extra long, triple XL. Okay, r/petty revenge. Tried to take up an entire train seat? Guess I'm going to have to be your new best friend. I take the train to work every morning. It's nice to sit and have a coffee and get ready for the day on the way in. In the trains, most of the seats will fit 2 people, except for the end carts, which can fit up to 4, and the trains fill up on the way. Usually, people have to stand in the aisle if they have the misfortune of getting on at the later stops. Luckily, I have an early enough stop that there's always seats available. I noticed that there was this guy who was getting on and taking one of the in-car seats and spreading his bag and computer and everything else across the seat so no one else can sit at the end of the car seat. So I've made it my goal every morning to find him on the train, and before he's able to pull all his junk out and spread all over the seat, to sit down right across from him. So far, I'm up to 8 days in a row. Dang, that's pretty petty. That is some petty revenge right there. I'm not gonna lie, if that was me, I would probably do the same thing because sometimes I can get a little bit petty. I would honestly just try to ask them like, do you mind moving your bag? And if they didn't do that, I would just sit on their stuff and be like, oh, it was a free seat. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't know bags got to get their own seat. I'm just kidding. On to the r/pro-revenge. This is literally like 30 minutes later. I'm gonna try this thing where I read them, but like a little break in between, because I noticed at the end of the video, like during the end, the last couple stories, I always are like a little bit choppy, so hopefully my reading is better. A lot of people have commented that I need to start reading better, like my reading sucks, or like, you freaking suck, get out of here, quit your YouTube channel. I'm gonna try and make it better, so this is my attempt. Guy tried to screw me over with my apartment damage fees. Backfired on him. I'm a college student, and I desperately needed to find a sublease for the past spring and summer, so I ended up finding one at a pretty nice apartment complex in my city. The guy, we call him Bob, seemed cool. We had a mutual friend. Everything went great. However, Bob wants the sublease under the table without the office getting involved. Okay, no worries. I've done this before. It's a 4 out of 4 with 3 other male roommates. This is important for later on. I have a 2-year hound mix. She's a great dog, but she gets terrible anxiety during thunderstorms. One day, I'm at work and we have probably the biggest thunderstorm we've had this year. She flips out and tears the edges off the carpet to my room. My dad has a guy who came in and did an estimate on the damages. Told me it would cost between $200 and $400 to recarpet the room. Cool, no problem. I can afford that. Bob sees the damages and I tell him I'll cover the damages caused by her. Anyways, I move out in July, a month passes, I'm on vacation with my family, and this mother lover Bob decides to call my dad and mom repeatedly. Then his mom calls them. I have no idea how they even got my parents' numbers. They tell my parents that the apartment complex is charging them $4,000 for a carpet of 10 by 10 room, that I have until the end of September to pay it or they take me to court. My dad is pissed because he knows the damages shouldn't cost that much. He contracts a leasing office and asks them for a breakdown of the damages. I don't know, but he managed to get them to tell him. The carpet damage in my room would cost $273. All the other charges were for damages the original tenant and his roommates did. So we contact Bob, and he's saying that the other roommates were supporting his claim that my dog had caused all the damages in the house. Firstly, can someone please explain to me how it's my dog's fault that they caused a bottle of wine to explode on the ceiling of the kitchen? Or how she managed to destroy the dishwasher? Or one of the guy's bathtubs? My parents, the lawyer, and me have a little get together. I never signed any document making me an official resident of the apartment. Therefore, I wasn't liable for any damages whatsoever. However, because I'm not an a-hole, I was still willing to pay for the carpet damage. We contact Bob and he refuses the offer of payment. His mom says that she wants me to pay for everything. But no, I'm not going to. Because I'm petty though, I contacted the leasing office. I gave them the documentation of me living there, and now the office is not only charging Bob and the other roommates the $4,000, they are suing for a breach of contract because he had an illegal tenant. They should have just taken the $273. And this is a picture of the real MVP of the story. Oh, so cute. That's exactly what that guy gets. Bob deserves to be screwed like that. Did he really think he was gonna get away with that? Like with no documentation of him living there? He thought he was gonna be able to get him in court. Like what was the judge gonna say? Dumb people do dumb things, and he couldn't just take a nice smart deal to get his carpets fixed. Poor guy. You almost feel bad for him. Okay, on to the r/nuclear revenge. Shoot my uncle and disappear? Backstory, this was over 50 years ago, and I'm sure no one involved is still alive. I was told this by my father during a hunting trip when my father was a little drunk one night. 50 years ago, I don't think any of those people even know what Reddit is. On to the story. As said before, this happened over 50 years ago. My father and his brother and my uncle and a few of their bike/trucker friends were in a bar drinking. While enjoying the drinks and the music, a small bar fight broke out between two guys a couple of tables away. My uncle has always been a nice guy and would never raise a hand in anger and go out of his way to help others. He gets up, walks over, and separating the two guys and tells them just knock it off and enjoy their beer. My uncle is above 6'8" and was strong as he was tall. The two guys sat down and one just gave my uncle a dirty look. My uncle rejoined my father and his friends and went back to enjoying their drinking. The guy with the dirty look got up and left the bar. My uncle was sitting with his back to the door when the guy came back and walked in right behind my uncle. Before anyone could act, pulled a gun and shot my uncle in the back. The guy turned and ran back out of the bar, got into his truck, and drove off. One of my father's friends grabbed the other guy and took him outside and got the information about his friend. I told him to leave town and never come back if he knew what was good for him. They took my uncle to the hospital as it would be faster than waiting for an ambulance back then. The next day, after a long surgery, my uncle was going to survive, but the bullet severed his spine and he would never walk again. Once they knew he was going to live, my father and about 5 other friends took their info they got and tracked down the shooter, busted down his door in the middle of the night, took him and his gun someplace my father would not say. At this place far enough away, no one would ever know or hear what was happening. They beat him up for hours until his arms and legs were pretty much mush, and my father said the man just disappeared that night. The police asked about what happened to my uncle, but was told it happened so fast, nobody saw a thing. The bartender was a friend and said the same. I lost my father over 33 years ago to cancer. And my uncle, well, he lived for a good life until complications to his legs, and they had to be removed, and he passed about 20 years ago. I feel safe on writing this as there is nobody alive connected to that night. God bless my father and his friends for not allowing a coward such as this guy to walk away without a bunch of karma getting him. I miss you, Dad and Uncle Jay. Okay, this guy needs to... That was a good story, but this guy needs to know the difference between no and no. And man, 50 years ago was a scary time. You could just get taken up out of your house and beat to a bloody mush. Though he did deserve that for coming up and shooting that guy in the back for stopping him from getting his butt whooped probably. That is some nuclear revenge. They literally killed the guy. They beat him to death. Jesus. If that's what r/nuclear revenge has, I wonder what r/supernova-revenge is about to do. I'm scared. I'm kind of scared right now. For r/supernova-revenge and the rest of them, I intentionally pick short ones because a lot of them are at least 15 paragraphs long, and to read 5 stories of 15 paragraphs long, this video would be like 2 hours long. But psychopathic bully gets his head crushed by one of his victims. This story is from my grandfather and takes place in around 1942 in a small town in Idaho. His memory is bad and so is mine, so I'll take most details with a grain of salt. My grandpa was a tough person, even when he was a child. A bit of a jerkhole, even. But this was the 40s and people were different back then. He was also a small child, and that attracted a lot of bullies. There was one bully, however, who was worse than most. His brothers would actually back him up, but this kid came along after his older brothers moved to a different school and left him with his younger siblings. This was the 1940s, so the bully got away with absolutely psychopathic levels of beatings, and he would even sometimes involve friends and beat them in a gang. Great-grandfather would do nothing, and he told him to be a man. So he did. One day, Grandpa hid behind a corner of a building, where he knew the bully passed every single day. When the jerko stepped past the corner, Grandpa swung a brick at his head, as hard as he could. The kid's skull caved in. Grandpa described it as being like an ashtray, and he hit the ground. Grandpa can't remember if he died or just had severe brain damage, but nobody messed with Grandpa after that. Oh my goodness, the 40s, like the old times, were like, those were different times. Like back then, I bet you he didn't get in trouble. Like kids can just beat you senseless. These days, at least everything is like recorded. So if some kid gets beat to a bloody pulp, like they know, that kid's kind of crazy and he gets shunned. Screw living in the old days. Screw that. Anyways, what do you think? Is that some Supernova revenge? Do you think that is the most crazy revenge I've ever heard? Is this sub all it's cracked up to be? I like this story a lot better than I did the story yesterday for the Supernova revenge. I think I might just got a bad pick. Anyways, if you like these, let me know down below. Like and subscribe if you want to continue watching these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I see you guys in the next video, and goodbye, my lovelies.